2, 3, 4.
Hi there, welcome to the Truly Myrtle podcast. This is episode number 6 and I'm Libby. If you haven't been before, welcome. It's really nice that you've joined us, and if you're a regular watcher, it's lovely to have you back. Thank you for coming back. Now I'm in a new location today. Can you see behind me? I've got, I thought I'd move to my spot in the kind of alcove off my hall where I have my sewing machines and I keep a variety of things, books and cottons, and there's a lovely big window next to me here that looks out over our front paddock, and I've got a bookshelf in front of me. You can't see that, but behind me I've got some of my wool and fabric. Now most of my wool and fabric is actually in a cupboard in my room, but I've got into the habit of pulling things out and making little piles of things that I'd like to make. So at the moment I've got rather a lot of wool for shawls and some cardies and some hats and some socks. So I just keep making these piles and then rearranging the piles and putting things back and bringing them out. Now a lot of them, it's not as beautiful as it could be because a lot of them are in plastic bags. We have moths around and I'm not entirely sure how to cope with that, but at the moment I'm keeping things in bags. I don't know if it makes a difference. Does it make a difference? What do you do with your wool? Do you store it in bags? But anyway, it's there. So I thought that would make a different backdrop for us. I'll just see how it goes. Down below I've got a bit of fabric, and so I've made piles of sort of stretch knit, things that would make nice little light bits or linings. I've got a whole pile of things for bags, more stuff that's intended for patterns. I've even put patterns with fabric in the hopes that that might happen. But yeah, there we go. And then I have a couple of my shawls hanging up for you to have a little look at too. So here we are in our new location. I'm Libby. I said that, didn't I? I'm Truly Myrtle. So I have a blog called Truly Myrtle. You can find me almost everywhere on the internet as Truly Myrtle, except Instagram, where I'm Truly Myrtle Photos. So come and say hi. I love talking to you. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. I'm not really on Pinterest that much, but I'm on Instagram a lot. Facebook, I'm getting more familiar with Facebook, so come and say hi to me there. And Ravelry, I have a Ravelry group, so come and join us over at the Ravelry group too. I'm going to put links to everything I talk about in my show notes. So I'll link to this on my blog, and I'll put a link to the blog post on the YouTube channel. That's confusing, isn't it? I'll try not to be too confusing. But anyway, you can find me, Truly Myrtle. I'm Libby. Right, should we get on with it? What have I got to show you today? Apart from my new setup, I've got a few things. I've finished something big, which feels quite good. I have to have my tea. It's actually getting a bit cold. I've been fiddling about trying to get my location sorted, so my tea's gone a bit cold. Right, I have finished my Stillness sweater. Here it is. It's lovely. It's like wearing a blanket. It's Aran weight wool. It's nothing special. Do you remember I dyed it myself? And it's my neutral mashup. So that's a reasonable look at it actually, the way it's appearing on the screen. It's got this nice little rib detail at the top, which the name escapes me at the moment. It's like a rice stitch, I think is what it's called at the top. I've made super long sleeves, which actually I roll up a lot. They're lovely and warm when it's cold. But mostly I just roll them up if I can do things. I love long sleeves, but I find them a little bit impractical. Do you? And baggy sleeves. I'm not a huge fan of baggy sleeves because they drape. I seem to do lots of cooking and they drape and things. And my knitting needles get stuck up them. Do you find that? So if I'm knitting with this on, and even if I have the sleeves rolled up a bit, my knitting needles get stuck at the end of my sleeve. So that's slightly awkward, isn't it? But I cope all right. So there are a couple of things I wanted to tell you about it. Alicia Plummer in Stillness sweater. I had to do the neckband twice. It shouldn't have been tricky, really. She said pick up all the stitches around the neck. It's knitted from the top down, so the whole body was done. And then I just had to go back and pick up the neckband. And it's still not perfect. It just isn't perfect. But it's good enough. In fact, it looks better in the flesh than it's showing up on the screen. It does look more imperfect on the screen. But it had a funny little dip in the front, which just made the shaping a bit odd around the neck, I thought. So I'm not quite sure how I would, if I was to do it again, I I might change that slightly. I'm not sure how. Well, I'd probably cast off not quite so steeply maybe around the front of the neck. But anyway, you pick up all the stitches, but I found this little section here, the stitches didn't want to match up quite so well with the bits underneath. And I did it twice. Second time I did it really carefully. And the other thing I had a little bit of a grumble about, it's a great sweater, I am happy with it. But at the back, and this could have been my mistake, although I've double checked the pattern and I don't think it is. There's actually a section where between the ribbing where you pick it up and the texture where it's just stockinette. So it's only two rows. I managed to pick up a little bit extra at the back to try and eliminate that, because the first time I did it, it was a bit bigger. But yeah, it's okay. I mean, I don't even see it. It's on my back. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen this stitch go straight from the top. So if you're going to do this pattern, you could do that. You could, by the time I realised, of course, I was finished, but you could start in the stitch pattern. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't instruct you to do that, but oh look, it doesn't really matter. You probably don't want to. It's fine. But yeah. Anyway, I'm just being a fusspot, really. But the one thing I learned something new when I was doing it, and I haven't done this before, is I did a rolled rib bind off. Is that what it's called? A rolled rib. Tubular bind off on the top of my neckband. And I really like it. I really like it. It doesn't give you a fat neckband. It's not doubled over. It's just the top row rolls over as you bind it off. So the way I did that was, it's instructed in the pattern, although she doesn't tell you how. So I have got this book, which is fantastic. Cast on, bind off. 211 ways to begin and end your knitting. This isn't the only book of this type around. There are others. I've seen there's another smaller one, which I think is also called Cast on, Bind Off. But it's really good. It has lots of really clear instructions on how to do things, and I've learned quite a lot from this book. So I found the tubular bind offs, and I did the Kitchener bind off. So what I did was I slightly altered what she said to do. I just followed what these instructions said to do. So for the last 2 rows, I slipped every second stitch with my yarn in front or my yarn behind, depending on whether I was doing a knit stitch or a purl stitch. I can't quickly find it now to tell you. I can't quickly find it to tell you, but it was one or the other. So I think I did it the way she said the first row, and then the second row I put the yarn, I alternated which one I slipped, and I put the yarn on the opposite direction to what she said. So I just did the opposite of what her instructions were. And then what happens is your 2 stitches, which are rib, plain, like that. My book's slipping off my knee. Your stitches, which are on your work, are then separated. So these 2 come forward and those 2 go back, or all the way round. It actually splits your stitches. So then when you come to bind off, you bind off those 2 together and those two together. Do you see what I mean? You Kitchener them together like you would at the end of a toe. So it ends up looking like that. So I guess that's a bit of better representation. You have all your stitches, you end up splitting them, so you cause a sort of gully. And then when you bind it off, you actually join them together like so. And it creates this slightly tubular top. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I think it's a really good way to finish off the sweater. And in fact, I'm going to use it again. It's really nice. So was that the only thing I had to tell you about it? I think it was. It's really warm. I've said that. It's just like wearing a blanket. I keep telling everyone it's like wearing a blanket, so I might as well tell you twice. It's really nice. It's cozy. I wore it the other day. I think it was the first day I wore it. And I was talking to someone and said I'd just finished my sweater. And she said she looked surprised that I just finished my sweater. Not that I'd knitted it, but that it was just finished. And she said, oh, it looks so worn. And then she quickly said, that's fine though, that's fine, that's good, it's good. So I think it does look quite worn. It looks quite shabby already, but that's fine. It's quite cozy. I certainly don't feel glam in it, but it's cozy, it's relaxed, it's nice. I'll wear it for you probably next time, if I remember. I didn't want to wear it this time because it's difficult to show you all the bits and wear it at the same time. But yeah, it is. It's cozy, relaxed. The neck is, I like the neck. It's slightly wider than, some people have commented they weren't sure if they wanted it quite so wide. I don't think it's that wide. And in fact, because it's quite a warm jumper, I think that if it was too much higher, I might be a bit hot. I quite like it like this. It just means it's sort of, it's not as wide as the one I've, oh, it probably is. It's probably about as wide as the one I've got on. So you can just see a bit of your top poking out underneath, but I like that. I don't mind that. In fact, the neckline might be very similar to this cardigan I'm wearing. No, it's slightly higher at the front. But this one is Audrey and Unst. I love this cardi. It's a good one. But yeah, so it's good. It's good. It's good. I know a couple of other people have had a couple of problems with the pattern, but it was fine. It was straightforward, and yeah, it got done. So I'm really pleased with that. It's great. It's a good addition to my wardrobe. I was hoping that I would be able to have 2 finished objects for you, but as it happens, I don't. Well, I do, but I don't have 2 garments finished for you. I have almost finished my granny's favourite cardigan for my middle daughter. This is the one where we dyed the wool ourselves. We did all that dyeing. It's finished. I thought I should have been finished a week ago, but I noticed that I'd done a little boo-boo on one of the cuffs. I had purled a row instead of knitting a row, and so I'd created a double ridge there, which I just had to rip it out and do that again, and it really didn't take long. I was actually watching netball when I did that, so I pulled that out, and then when I finished it, I tried it on her, and because it's quite full in the sleeves and I anticipate it's going to fit her for quite a while, I wanted to add a bit more length to the body, and because it's a top-down yoke necked sweater, that was easy peasy to do. I just whipped off the bottom, knitted for about another inch, and then I just cast it off last night. So it still needs all its ends weaving in, because of course I had to alternate skeins, being hand dyed yarn. In fact, just about everything I'm knitting at the moment that's large, I'm having to alternate skeins, which I'm quite looking forward to something where I don't alternate skeins, but there we go. That's just the way it is with hand dyed yarn. So it's really pretty. It's super lovely and smelly. It's soft, and all I have to do is weave in the ends, sew on, I'll block it, and then I'll sew on the buttons. So that will be finished. So I probably won't show it to you again, but I will post a picture on my Ravelry page or on Instagram or something when it's all done of all the girls. Well, I've got 2 now, 2 in their cardigans. So that is nearly done. Granny's Favourite by Georgie Hallam. It's a nice little knit, and again, it's just a cozy. It's a DK, although this is quite a heavy DK, I think. It's not dissimilar to the Aran. Oh no, it is a bit lighter than the Aran, but it's a bit heavier than some others. So it's a Polworth. So that's done. So that's what I've been working on. I finished one more thing, which is my latest shawl, and this one will be coming out next week. So I'm really pleased with this shawl. It's just simple. Modern, I just love it. It's great. So there it is on. It's a crescent shaped shawl. It's a combination of twisted rib and garter. So it's an easy knit. It's a nice, simple, relaxing-ish knit, if you like twisted rib. Some people get a bit sick of it. But can you see that? So it has, it's almost, I mean, it's reversible in that you can definitely wear it both sides, because on the right, what I consider the right side, has got 3 rows of twisted rib knit stitches, and 3 stitches of the twisted rib knit, and then 2 of the purl. And so on the back it's the opposite, 2 of the, make sure you can see it, 2 of the twisted rib and then purl knit, and 2 of the twisted rib purl. So it gives it a really, I like it. So we had real trouble finding a name for it, but in the end I settled on rattan. It's my rattan shawl, because it does look like a woven basket. It really does have that look about it, and I love it. I haven't worn it yet. I never let myself wear them. I rarely let myself wear them until they're actually published. So this will come out next week, and the testers are busy going. Some of them are finished. Goodness, I've got some quick test knitters. If you're ever interested in being one of my test knitters, just drop me a line, because I have got some bigger things coming in the pipeline. So I'm going to need, and I've got quite a few things in the works, so I am going to need quite a few test knitters soon. So if you are interested, just drop me an email, trudymyrtle@gmail.com, and I'll add you to my list. So there we are, rattan shawl. It'll be out next week. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about crescent shawls, because this is a crescent shape. So if you remember my very popular settler shawl, which was the first shawl pattern I published. It was the first shawl pattern I published, is this one. Now this is a funky one because it's got that interesting sort of, it's not lace, is it? It's just an interesting twisted stitch at the bottom, which looks much harder than it really is. See, it's got, and I've given you quite good instructions about how to do it. It's not tricky. Most of it's quite relaxing. But I'm showing it to you because it's a crescent shawl. So you can see it's a long, slender, it's very long, slender crescent, which I find really wearable. Really wearable, because you can either sling it around your neck, over your shoulder, and wear it more like a traditional shawl, or you can do what I do, which is wear it a bit more like a scarf, and it just adds that extra layer of warmth, and it makes it really versatile. So I've got two settlers here because I made two in different colours. They're both crescents, and this one has got a contrasting bind off on the bottom. But yeah, they're really, really wearable. They're kind of like scarves. I think they're more like scarves than shawls. The shawl sounds prettier, doesn't it? Scarf doesn't sound as pretty. So there we go, that's those. Now, one other thing I wanted to talk to you about when we're on the subject of shawls is blocking. And I'm actually going to do, I'll do a blog post, maybe even a little series about this, because I'm seeing lots of people with questions about blocking. So I have learned a bit about blocking shawls now that I'm doing it a lot more regularly. One of the big things that I do is I stretch them quite a lot along the top edge. Now this shawl has a very similar construction along the edge to another of my shawls called Darling Dotty, and in that case I've added an extra yarn over in between the two edge stitches to give it some extra stretch. So you add it on the right side row when you're doing your yarn overs for your increases at the edge, and then on the following row you drop your yarn over, and what happens is it just creates a more elastic edge. Now I didn't put it, it's not actually in the instructions for the settler shawl, or in fact in my instructions for my mindful shawl. I don't think I put it in that one either, but you can add it to any shawl edge, particularly these crescents where you want a nice, well any really, where you want a nice long, a good stretch. I like length. Because of the way I wear it, I'm after length more than I'm after depth. So when I come to block it, I give it a good long soak in the water, in warm water, usually because mine's been dragged around the whole house, and inside the house, outside the house, when it's been knitted, the wool is sometimes a little bit grubby, so I do put a little bit of wool wash in. I soak it probably 15-20 minutes. I give it a good soak, I don't squeeze it, and then I take it out, give it a gentle squeeze, lie it in a towel lengthways along the length of the towel, and then roll up the towel and stand on the towel, and that gets all the extra moisture out. Once I've done that, it's pretty much, you know, it's not dry, but it's not dripping anymore. It's sufficiently wrung without wringing it. You don't want to wring your knitwear. So when I've done that, then I actually have a giant wool blanket. I've picked it up somewhere at a secondhand shop, and it's one of those lovely old wool blankets, just cream, probably issued in the army, by the army in World War II. Anyway, I spread it out on my floor. It's quite large, and for a double bed, and then I get to work with my my pins and my blocking wires. So I've recently been using blocking wires. Before that I only had pins, but I needed quite a lot of pins, particularly where I had a pointy edge on them. So what I do is, if you have blocking wires, which I do recommend getting if you're making lots of shawls, it has really made it easier for me to get a good shape in mine. So I just thread my blocking wire through the whole of my the end, not the top, the bottom of the shawl. I spread it through the whole of the bottom of the shawl. I've seen some people thread it through the top too, but I actually don't think you need to do that. I think you just can thread it through the bottom. Now with these long shawls, I actually use 2 wires, and in about the middle, I come in from either end. Even for the very long wires, I use 2. Come in from about the end, and then I cross them in the middle, and so they go sort of together, so they don't split apart like that. Then I arrange my shawl in a horseshoe shape. So it really is a horseshoe shape. I have the tops come right in. Because of the way it's increased, it naturally wants to curl like this. naturally wants to do that. It does not want to go straight. I don't think you're going to get the stretch in it or the drape in it by pulling it straight. I think you're better off to go round in a crescent like this. So I do that, and this is the hardest part because it's really hard to get it symmetrical. Now, it's not crucial. It's absolutely not the end of the world if you don't, but if you can aim for a relatively symmetrical shape, it's good. Now, I tend to try and pin out. I sort of adjust and adjust and adjust. So I start by pinning out a corner and then working away at one edge. So I pin the corner. I never pin the inside, this top edge. I just firmly but gently pull it, stretch it all the way along, all the way along. You're going to get so much more length if you just give it a bit of pull. It's going to be quite stretchy. You'll be surprised at how much you can get into it. So just gently but firmly pull it all the way along. You'll feel it stretch as you go. So I do that. I pin up the corner, and then as I'm going along, I use my other T-pins. They're the long ones. I can't grab any right now to show you. I'll put this all in a blog post, and then I pull out my shawl. Now I give it some really good stretch. I like a nicely stretched, nicely blocked shawl. So when I say my measurements in my patterns, I have done this. I have given it a good stretch because I like to open it up, and when you open it up, it gives it really good drape. If you don't give it good pull, you don't get that nice flowing end that we get with these. You don't get that sort of nice curled end. It can actually sit like this if you don't give it a good strong. It'll sit sort of slightly kinked up. It wants to go out and it wants to curl in a curl. So there we go. Do you understand what I'm saying? I hope you do. So you have it stretched out like so. You're pulling it outwards like that, and you're pinning as you go, and you're pulling your wires or your pins. At first I just did it with pins, and you're readjusting and readjusting and readjusting. You do that side, and then you realize that side could be more around, or you look back and you realize it can take me an hour, probably only an hour, to pin out a shawl properly. But it's really worth it. I think it makes a big difference. Definitely gives you nice length. It gives you good drape, and I love the way it gets a nice curl at the bottom when you're wearing it. So if you're going to all that trouble to make it, I think you need to, well, I do. If I'm going to all the trouble to make it, I like to know that I'm going to end up with something that's really good at the end. So there we go. I will do that in a when I get round to it. I'll do a series of posts on my blog, because it would be nice to be able to link to those in my patterns for you. One thing I am going to do for this pattern, it's all the photographs I've taken, I just need to make up the tutorial. Actually, by the time you see this, the tutorial will be up, is instructions for one of the increases down the side of my shawl. I do a yarn over on the first row, and then the second row, which is the back side, I do what's called a knit yarn over knit, KYOK. So you knit into the yarn over from the previous row, and you knit a stitch. You don't drop the yarn over. You then do a yarn over, and then you knit again into the same yarn over, and you do another stitch, and you end up with 3 stitches out of that 1 stitch. So I think most people get that okay, but I have had a few questions about KYOK. So I will do a little tutorial and link to that. So that's how I do my increases down the sides of the crescents. The same for the Settler shawl, and the same for this one. And it just gives you, because it's quite a lot of increases over a short space, it gives you that beautiful crescent, and but doesn't give you quite the depth in it. So there we go. That's my little talk over about blocking shawls. So have a look out for that. It will be out next week. Yeah, I'll just put it everywhere so you won't miss it. So what else did I have to show you? Oh, a couple of things. I'm not going to go on for too much longer because I'm not sure. I'm using my phone to record, and I'm not entirely sure that it won't cut out on me, but we'll see. Now, I have been teaching a knitting group at my kids' school. I should just quickly mention I didn't sew a thing this month. I looked around expecting to pick up some sewing and thought, I haven't sewn a thing. This is terrible. I lived through Me Made May. I wore handmade clothes every day, and I kept saying I need more winter handmade clothes, and I have piles of things which I'm supposed to make, and I've bought a couple of patterns, but I've made nothing. So I will show you some handmade, hand-sewn things next month. I am determined. I'll try anyway. I'll try. Right, so I'm taking this knitting group at school. It's been really fun. So at the moment they're all aged about 10, 11 to 13. And we're getting so many kids. We've got over 20 kids now coming. They more come every week. I think 5 boys come now. So that's been really fun. And so I have a big basket of wool that I've cleared out from my stash, and needles that have been donated to us, and needles that used to be mine, and needles that they're buying now. And it's just really good fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. So we meet once a week. So now that quite a lot of them have actually got the hang of the knitting, we haven't done purl, we've just done knitting. I've taken along a couple of books to try and get them. We've knitted bookmarks and sort of monster things, but I've taken along these 2 books. So this one has been the most useful one. I've taken this one, which I love, but would probably never, ever, ever make in my whole life, even though I love it so much. Isn't that just gorgeous? And it's probably that kind of thing where you spend hours and hours making it, and then no child ever plays with it. But everybody loves it, but no one plays with it. I bet that's what would happen in my experience. But anyway, that is one. So it has houses and animals, and it's just gorgeous. I love it. I've always had a little thing for little things. So that really appeals to me. The patterns in there are slightly more complicated, so we'll work up to those than the patterns in here. I remember a friend of mine's little daughter was knitting in England years ago, and she made a lot of animals out of this, and I've made a few for my kids. So one of the things we've started with, which they've all really loved, are the little rabbits, and we've started with this little rabbit. Now the thing I really like about this book is there are instructions, you can follow the instructions, but what we follow are the diagrams. So all they have to knit is a square, and it tells us how many stitches and how many rows, and 2 ears and a tail, and then we assemble it like so. So a few of them have done all the knitting, and this week they'll be able to start assembling, because actually a lot of them don't have any experience sewing either, so it's been quite interesting doing both with them. Yeah, but isn't it cute? Little rabbit. It's really cutie. One of my more accomplished knitters, accomplished probably the wrong word, she just got it straight away. I think I showed her 2 stitches, and then she just knitted. So some of them, it's amazing watching how different they all are. So she anyway is making the horse. So that one involves a bit of decreasing and then increasing and then shaping at the top, but the other one has a little bit of shaping. But she's making the horse, and she has plans to make the donkey and all sorts of things. She's got lots of plans. So some of them have really been drawn to those. But others have been drawn to these. Now this little magazine is a New Zealand indie publication which I subscribe to, and I really like it because it has lots of interviews with really interesting people in it. And this is the most recent issue, Extracurricular. It's right up my street. I really enjoy that whole approach and the whole kind of ethos behind it. It's really nice, gentle sort of magazine. This is the knitting issue, or the fibre issue, I think is probably what it is, really. The messy issue, it's called, the messy issue. Yeah, because if I showed you the rest of the thing of space around me, you would see that if you're making things all the time, I get in a bit of a pickle, and then I have to go through, and it's like a whirlwind, and clean it up. Anyway, the messy issue has got these fabulous little fingerless mitts in it, which I believe, yes, Joanne from the Knittographer, Jo from the Knittographer has written a little pattern for. So I've actually taken it along, and I'm showing it to my kids, and we're making a version of it, because we don't necessarily have the same wool or the same needles or even the same size hands. So, but we're making a version. So we're casting on enough stitches sort of from their fingertips to however what they want their wrists, the length of their glove, and then we're knitting around, and they're just knitting around until we can stretch it with a little bit of negative ease, and it closes on the other side of their hand, and then we will stitch it up there and there, leaving a hole for their thumb. But some of them just thought that was great. So there's quite a few pairs of hot pink fingerless mitts in the works at our knitting group. So they've been really fun. They're just some ideas, because yeah, it's been really, really good helping them out. I've really enjoyed it. There's one girl in particular, I can see it's just made a huge difference to her, and I didn't expect that. So she struggled and struggled and struggled for a long time to actually master the stitches. She came every week and she'd try and take it home, and but she was really just finding it so hard. But last time we were there, so this must be 5-6 weeks in now, she came up, she arrived, and she just said to me, I could do it, I've done it. And she just was so thrilled with herself. And I thought, yes, that's so cool. I was really pleased for her. So it was just been a huge thing. It really has been a huge thing for her. You wouldn't imagine it. Knitting would be such a huge thing, but it has been for her. And the boys have marveled at how they can do it, but how fast some of the girls are, and they're kind of, you can see that slight competitive edge is coming in, and they want to do it, you know, they want to be just as quick as those girls and make some cool stuff. And they've enjoyed looking at the little animals and working out. Some of them have started the rabbits. Some of them have done finger knitting so far. My 4-year-old, she's not 4 now, she's 5. My 5-year-old came in because it's at her school too. My kids are at the same school. She came in one lunchtime, we were in the library because that's where we do it, and she showed some of them how to finger knit. So they've got a little run of them just finger knitting. So that's quite fun. I remember really enjoying finger knitting as a little girl, making a long cords of finger knitting. And my kids have done that too, and we've turned them into sort of, you know, pretend dog leads for the dress-up box, or things to rope off areas, or handles for bags, that kind of thing. Anyway, it's been really fun, but I just thought they might be some good ideas. If you're contemplating starting a knitting group, I'd say go for it. It's really good. I've wound all my balls, my old sort of little bits of wool and any wool we get hold of into little 25-gram skeins, balls, and I've taken my old straights all around about a number 4mm, just below, just over, because most of our wool is DK and Aran that we seem to be getting. So yeah, it's really fun. I think that's all I had to show you today. I think that's all. No sewing. It's a bit of a shame, isn't it? Never mind, the month goes round. It's really fast, really fast. We have a new puppy in our house. We haven't seen him this morning. I gave him a bone, so he's out chewing his bone. So I better go and see where he is. He's very cute. One day, if he behaves himself, he might be able to come and show his face here. But he has been eating me when I've been wearing my jumper. So I've been... he's very good at leaving things now. He's not very good. He's getting better. But I've been getting my little needle and threading my ends back in where he's got them stuck on his tooth and his mouth. He's very cute. He's a little Labrador. Right, I think that's it. It was lovely to talk to you. I'll link everything I've talked about in the show notes. If you have any queries, questions, suggestions, tips about blocking shawls, or blocking in general, but particularly blocking shawls, because that's what I'm going to do my post about, just drop me a line. I'd love to hear them. You might have something I haven't even thought of, which would be great. So when I sit down to write my my series, then that would be great to include it. I'm in the middle of writing my newsletter at the moment, which comes out next Wednesday. So if you have tips and suggestions that you think everybody needs to know about knitting and sewing, or anything fibre related, to be honest, tell me. Let me know, and we can spread the word. I love it when we tell everyone else all the cool things. So just drop me a line. If you want to get my newsletter, it's called my Truly Myrtle handmade newsletter. It has an article in it, and then lots of tips and links to things that I've enjoyed over the month, and links back to things I've been doing and on the blog. If you want to subscribe, then just go and click over to my blog and you can join up there. It's easy. You just put your email address in the box on my blog. I think that's all. Is that all? I can't remember. Got that shawl coming out next week. Got another one next month. On a roll. It's great. Don't know how long I'll keep this up. We'll try. It'll be fun. So much fun. I'm having a ball. Anyway, I better go. I'm just rambling now. I'll see you later. Bye.
2, 3, 4. Is it a scarf or is it half of a sweater? From what I've heard, it could be a third of a poncho. There's no excuse now not to be knitting, 'cause you can do it standing and you can do it sitting. Is it a hat or is it the start of a blanket? Maybe a ball or even a shawl for a baby. There's no excuse now not to be knitting, 'cause you can it standing, and you can do it sitting. Take out your needles, we're casting none. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For once I caught a fish alive. You can do it, Mary. You can do it, John. Is it a gnome or some other homely creation? Wait and see. It might even be for a teapot.